Hey, welcome to the Honey and Harry Show. I'm Honey.
And I'm Harry in the Mr. Producer chair tonight.
And today we have actually somebody that I've been knowing for a while. Lindsay, I'm going to mess it up. Say it again. I can't say
Guercio.
Guercio. I was going to say it the other way. Anyways, I knew her from St. Andrew's Preschool 10 years ago. And actually, Lindsay and my Lindsay are friends. They both kind of went through the same journey. They both had cancer, breast cancer. So she's going to kind of tell us a little bit about her journey. What's different about her journey is that she actually did the cold capping. And I don't know if y'all have heard about that or not, but she's going to kind of tell us a little bit about that. So welcome.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So kind of let us know, like, when you got diagnosed, and this is the other thing. I always ask Lindsay this. Did you ever have any signs?
No.
Or see, she didn't either.
No.
Nothing.
So I guess a little backstory on that. So I was diagnosed when I was 35.
Okay.
And I remember I had gone to see my gynecologist. I see some of my friends are watching.
Oh, yeah.
I had gone to see my gynecologist, and I was, at that point I was 34. And she was like, hey, next year, or she said, when you're going and scheduling your annual for next year, why don't you go ahead and schedule a mammogram? And I was like, I'm only 35. Like, I thought this started at 40.
Wow.
And she was like, no, I like to do a baseline at 35.
Thank God.
I know. So Dr. LaFranca, I love you and you know this and I appreciate you so much. So anyway, that was, I don't even know, I guess it was like August of 2019. And so fast forward to July 2020. In the middle of COVID, at that point, things were starting to kind of get back to normal. People were starting to get out in the world again. And in fact, today's the 17th. I want to say it was the 22nd, July 22nd. So it's been almost exactly 4 years to this week. I know.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
Show up and go to my annual, go to do the mammogram. And I'm just like, oh, this is just, normal thing. Wasn't concerned about it. I had been breastfeeding my daughter for 2.5 years. I guess we had stopped when she was about 2.5 when we stopped breastfeeding. At this point, she was like a little over 3. So it may have been almost a year. And so, you always hear that breastfeeding reduces your chances of cancer and all these other things.
No, I'm glad you're saying that.
Yes.
So I definitely say that because Lindsay didn't, and she always thought.
And maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it's just bad luck. I don't know. I still to this day, I'm like, why me? Like, what?
No.
Why was it me? And so I did so I show up, I'm like, nothing's wrong, whatever. Well, when they did the mammogram was the first time I really had noticed. I was like, they were doing the mammogram and I had some pain. And I was like, well, that was weird. But I also was like, my body had been kind of still adjusting from breastfeeding. And so I was like, maybe this is just my body adjusting.
And it was your first mammogram, right?
It was my first one.
So you didn't know what to expect.
Correct.
Yes.
And so anyway, so I had that. And then I knew my mom had mammograms where she had to go back for a second look or whatever, and it had always been a cyst or nothing. And so when they called me a week after my mammogram to say, hey, we need you to come back in for a second look, I was like, okay, well, I literally did not give it a second thought. And I was like, I'm going to go back in, it's going to be fine, and whatever. So I go back in. Immediately after doing the mammogram, they take me into the ultrasound room. They're like, we need to do an ultrasound. We need to take a closer look. And even then I was like, well, this is my first one. They really want to get a good baseline.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing something, but didn't think anything. So I'm kind of watching the girl, and she's like focusing on this one spot just over and over. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, of course they can't tell you anything.
They can't.
Right. So it's like, you're sitting in there and she's just doing something over and over, and she's running the thing. And then she's like, I need to go get the radiologist. And I was like, okay. And so he comes in after like an hour. I think I sat there for like an hour in an empty room, and I was
Are
by
you
myself.
kidding?
You know, I was by myself. No one was in there for COVID. I wasn't allowed to have anybody at the hospital with me at that time. And so I'm texting everybody. And when he did come in, he couldn't say anything either. He's like, I need you to go to this room and do this. And I'm like, it doesn't look good, does it? And he was like, no. He basically just said, I don't know yet. We need to do a biopsy, but it doesn't look good. And I was just like, okay. So immediately go straight from the ultrasound room. It was like a whirlwind. This was like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Get swept into another room where they're like, I need you to pick what breast surgeon you want to go see. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know. So I'm texting one of my friends whose mom had just gone through chemo and all of the breast cancer. And I was like, who's your mom's doctor? I'm texting my mom, who's her doctor? And so I'm just like getting names in somebody sitting right there across
had
from
time
me.
to digest
Haven't
this.
had time to Now, I didn't know at this point that it was even cancer, right? But it was like just this whirlwind. And what I also didn't realize, and I think this is kind of like, it's important, that decision of who my breast surgeon was going to be, they're like teams. At least this is how it is in Louisiana. It's teams. So when I picked my breast surgeon, it's kind of like an oncology team, a radiology team. It's a team of people. So had I picked a different, had I picked the one at Baton Rouge, it would have been a totally different. So my whole journey could have been completely different. And it was just that one moment when I was sitting there, like, had no clue about any doctors because I had never even like thought at any moment this could be.
Well, why would you? You know,
right?
And that's how it happens. It just bam,
and it's just so fast, and it's such a whirlwind. And so I went from that moment, and I just said, okay, take me, Dr. Kuntz. That's who my friend Alicia's mom saw. So can she see me today? Because they wanted me to go see someone right then.
Absolutely.
I mean, at this point now, I think between it was probably like 3 o'clock. So now you're at the end of the day. A lot of these doctors are trying to leave. So they said, oh, she can see you today. So I go up there, I see her. She basically just checks me in, signs this. I go straight back downstairs, do a biopsy that day. I mean, it was like, just like I was in a fog or a dream or something. I don't know. It was like, this isn't even
You're just going
real.
through the motion. You don't even know.
Yeah,
what you're doing.
you're literally going through the motions. And I think pretty much for an entire year, I just like went through the motions, you know?
Well, that's all you could do.
Yeah. And I think that's probably just like how I got through it.
That is how you got through it.
Yeah. So fast forward a week, and I had to wait that long for the pathology and everything to come through. So I go to the doctor's office. I get called in. I remember being at work. So at this point now, we're 1 week away. It was August 5th. We're 1 week away from my kids starting school, life getting back to normal. And I was like, I was so ready to get back to normalcy because we had been just like at home working from, my husband and I both worked from home for months. And so I had just gone to the office. I think I had been there like 1 or 2 weeks. And so I remember telling people when I left that day for that appointment, I'm going to an appointment. If it's bad, I won't be back. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. And I didn't go back. So I went in, I went to the doctor alone again. And I go in the room.
Still couldn't sit back. I want people to understand he couldn't come with you.
He couldn't come.
Yeah, that's what people. Not that he wanted to be there.
Oh, he wanted to be there.
But you couldn't because remember that was COVID time.
Yes.
I just want people to understand that
you were not allowed to have any visitors in the hospital. You had to mask up every
Such a weird time.
It was, and I was so angry that it was happening to me at that time.
100%.
I'm like, what? Like, why now? Of all, like, this is the weirdest time in the world, like, ever. And now this, it just made no sense. So I go into the room, and she's like, Dr. Kuntz just comes in, and she's like, it's cancer. I want you to get dressed and I'll be right back in to talk to you. And I mean, it was that straight to the point, just straight. So I'm texting him, the whole time I was texting him while I was waiting, and so I texted him and I'm like, it's cancer. And he called up there. He's like, I need to be there. I need to be there with her. I need to talk to her. They wouldn't let him. And I don't even know. I'm saying Justin, my husband, is sitting over here too. But
her husband's actually sitting off. So if you have anything to add, definitely.
I just remember you calling.
They wouldn't let me do anything.
And that's your wife. That's your wife. I mean, that's
who. And now even looking back, so that is such a pivotal time. Like at that moment, Dr. Kuntz came into the waiting room, not the waiting room, to the room that I was in, brought me this book. And you've seen the book.
No, I'm sorry. I'm like tearing up, thinking, like just
reliving your own.
No, just reliving this because like it's your husband. He can't even be there with you. It's such a terrible time. Like somebody's telling you have cancer, like it's the worst thing you want to hear, and then you're alone. And your husband can't even be with you. That's like the worst.
I'm pretty sure I just blacked out.
You did.
Because, she gives you this flow chart, and we're both engineers. I mean, and it's like, I needed a flow chart clearly, because after that, I'm like, what just happened? What did she say? And thankfully it was all written on a flow chart, and I studied that journal. Like that was like my little Bible for like a week of just, what is this? Like, how does this happen? Like, what caused this? It didn't make sense. And I don't know. It's just, now I get angry just thinking like, I was in that room hearing this diagnosis alone. I was blacking out. So like, she could have told me there was a monkey on my head, and I probably wouldn't have.
No, you wouldn't have
heard.
No,
because it's just like she says those words, and it just like everything flashes in front of you. It's like, how is this happening? What am I going to do? And of course, and then this is every time I say this is when I start to cry. Then I think about my kids.
100%.
Because it's like.
100%.
At the time, Olivia was 3, Emma was 7. And I'm like, our life, we're just about to get back to normal. They're about to start school. And like,
y'all's life is just starting.
Yeah. Right.
Your life is just starting.
Right. So.
And look, when I remember when that happened to my daughter, I just remember, why not me? Like, I'm old. I did my job. You haven't even done your job yet.
Right.
You have a whole job to do.
And, I don't know. Now looking back, I say this. I was so mad that it was during COVID. But now it's like, it was actually good that it was during COVID, because I wasn't really going anywhere.
Yeah.
I wasn't really doing anything. At that time, the kids weren't as involved as they are in activities. Now we're doing all these activities, and I mean,
they've been way harder.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was like our life had slowed down. If it was going to happen, I guess it was the perfect time for it to happen. As awful as it was, and as angry as I was that it happened at that time, it was like, I guess it happened at the right time,
Well, I don't know if it was the right time, but at least
never was the right time.
But it was it was a time where there wasn't a whole lot going on, and
right.
Yeah, I think I agreed with Lindsay too. Y'all were so close with your diagnosis.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk about though is, how did you find out about the cold capping? And because that is something that I think that a lot of people don't know about.
They don't.
And you being an engineer, you probably understand it and know how to work it. And all, we brought another engineer in here to talk about it too, so we can. And there's another engineer in here.
He's an engineer too.
I'm the odd man. I'm just.
Oh, that's all right. You're just keeping it straight.
No. Y'all. So please. So Dad, why don't you pull up a picture? Yeah. So that when we say cold capping, kind of explain, because I don't know anything about it.
Right.
So we're going to show some pictures of that.
Yes. So at the time, I was selling makeup, and I was like, it sounds so vain, but I was like, I don't want to lose my hair. And
No, of
I
course
also
not.
was just like, I had mentioned to some other friends of mine who also sold Unique with me at the time. I was like, I asked them about fake eyelashes. I said, because I'm going to lose my eyelashes. Like, how do I sell mascara if I'm losing my eyelashes? And I don't want to take selfies if I don't have hair. And it was like a whole thing. And a friend of mine who lived in Virginia, she was like, I know somebody who didn't lose their hair. And I was like, who? Tell me more about this.
Absolutely.
I've never, like, how is this possible? And so it's funny because I had this girl who lived in, I think she was in Virginia too. She called me. I gave her my number. She called me and we talked like we had known each other forever. I've never met this girl in my life. I still haven't met her. It's all just like through Facebook and everything. And so we connected. And so then once I heard about it, I started kind of talking about it. And I was talking about it with one of my dear friends from Louisiana who went to law school with another girl, Holly Hollis Stars. And she had done cold capping in Louisiana at Women's Hospital. And turns out she even had the same doctor as me. And
wow.
so I talked to Holly. I talked to this other. I talked to so many people. I got into Facebook groups. I just started my digging, I guess because I just like am so thorough about everything. I knew that if I knew about it, I had to try.
100%.
And I was like, I wanted to do something. I wanted to keep our family life as normal as possible. Yep. And I wanted just to keep my kid, everything as normal as I could and not have it change my life so much to where, you know, I went out in public and people looked at me like, oh, you have cancer. I just didn't want people, not that I was even like hiding it that I had cancer, because I was actually very vocal about it on Facebook once I processed that I even had it, and I went public with it.
And I love that you shared, because that's what
so
Lindsay and I said. That we were like, when you started sharing, we loved it.
Because so many people,
you need to share it.
So many people keep it in, and it's so hard, because honestly what got me through was the community, and like the breast cancer community alone, like just being connected to Lindsay. I mean, I would message her as, she'd just gone through chemo, and she was, talking about being on the bathroom floor. And I'm like, well, what did you do? Cause I'm dying, I'm right there behind you, And so just being able to talk to people was huge. And so once I started researching into the cold cap, I brought it up to my doctor, and she was kind of like, well, you can try it, but I don't know if it's going to work that well.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I'm ready to prove somebody wrong,
Glad you did.
So I started digging, and I researched like the different types of chemo and the different types of cancers. So cold capping, there are different systems for cold capping. There's what I use, which is called the Penguin system. It's a manual system where you manually change the caps every 25 minutes.
Every 25 minutes. So let me ask you this. So Justin, you were there doing all the work.
And he may have to talk about that part, because yes,
is that what you did? You did the work, right?
He did all the hard.
I changed the caps. And
so you went with her to chemo.
Yeah, it's the first time in my life I've ever been essential personnel.
Maybe
the only time in my life.
So yes, that's another important thing. So whenever we were in the doctor's office, I was saying, I went to Dr. Zadaran, and I was telling her, like, I want to do this cold cap, and I researched it, and she approved it, and I was like, but I need somebody there with me, because at that time you couldn't even have anybody in the room with you for chemo.
See, Lindsay didn't have anybody.
Right.
Yes.
And so it was I had to get special approval for him to be in the room with me. When you do cold capping, it is such a process. You have the cooler with dry ice.
Oh,
That's how you keep the caps cold.
Okay.
The caps were cooled to negative 30 degrees Celsius.
And that went on your head.
And it went on your head. And so you literally freeze.
How does that feel?
Nauseating at first. Gosh. I got nauseous. Like, I think for the first couple, it didn't hurt. I mean, it's just an ice pack on your head.
I can't even imagine.
A sub-zero ice pack
That's what
on
I'm
your head.
saying.
Yeah. After the first, probably, I don't know, it was probably at least 30 minutes to an hour or so, would you say?
Used to, so the first couple caps that would go on, you would be huffing and puffing, right? Rightfully so, but trying to get used to the temperature on your head.
Wow.
And then from then on, it was okay.
Yeah.
Because your head at that point is frozen.
It went numb.
And the chemotherapy can't penetrate the follicles.
Right.
So basically, you're freezing your head.
Yes. So what it does is it shrinks the hair follicles to where it doesn't, the chemo never actually, this is where a lot of people get nervous with it too. So what it does is it shrinks your hair follicles so that the chemo doesn't affect the hair follicle as much as if the hair follicle was just wide open. Like if you think about when you take a shower or something, you know, even like when you wash your face, your pores are open when you have warm water, but when you do cold, they close. So your hair follicles are the same, and it just shrinks that follicle to where it's less of an effect of the chemo on the hair.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's different systems. There's the Penguin system, which is the manual system, and then there is, I mean, I don't even know all the systems. There's a Paxman. I think Women's Hospital has the Paxman system.
Mhm.
What that is it's a machine that is hooked to your head. So you have a cap that slides on your head, and then there's a tube that's hooked to the machine. And so the benefit of that is you don't have to have somebody on the ground changing out a cap every 25 minutes. You're sitting in chemo and the cap's on your head the whole time. And
it never comes off.
It doesn't come off. You keep it on throughout your chemo treatment. And for so many, I don't exactly know that system since I didn't do it.
Absolutely.
But I do think they have to stay for maybe like an hour after treatment, just because even after treatment, the chemicals are still in you. And so you don't want to take it off right away, or else it kind of like voids out everything that you've already done.
I didn't even. So wait, so when you went home, would you have to wear it?
So I started wearing it an hour?
1 hour.
1 hour before chemo started. So I had TCHP chemo. So that's Taxotere, carboplatin, Herceptin, and Perjeta. Herceptin and Perjeta are two immunotherapy drugs that I got. Technically, those aren't chemo, but the TC part was. And the TC chemos they're still intense chemos, but
Any chemo's intense.
they are. But they're not the red devil that you hear about. So AC chemo, the A is the red devil, and people have cold capped. Holly Hollis is actually one that cold capped using the Penguin system, and she had the red devil.
Did her hair fall out, or
She did lose some. She didn't lose it all.
She didn't lose it all.
It thinned. I mean, mine did too. I probably lost. I don't know. You never really can say how much you lost. I just look back at pictures. I just know my hair really thinned, and it was probably 60% that I kept of my hair, maybe more.
I'd say 70. You really only lost it in the areas around your ears and underneath the back
where the
part
cap
of your head.
didn't fully cover, like around my ears and at the bottom of the base of my head.
Well, that
and I
makes
also
sense.
think because I have such thick hair to begin with, that it just wasn't as obvious. I mean, and also because it's so thick that the cold couldn't totally, I mean, it's like an insulator, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't necessarily get all the follicles underneath, the hairs underneath. And that's where I lost it a lot, was underneath. But yeah, I never had bald patches. Some
Nothing
people
like
do.
that.
I mean, if you have thin hair, it's not going to be as successful because you do still lose hair.
Yeah.
And that's what's probably the most important thing. Number one, it is a process. It is a commitment. It is not easy.
And I had a whole, I know that sounds so stupid, but I thought it was completely different than what you said.
Really? Yeah. I mean,
because you
tell
look
people
so positive. Or even when you would put your stuff on Facebook, you never complained. Like, I mean, you weren't complaining about it, or you seemed like it was No, I mean, maybe, but
Justin's over there making faces and laughing because what you mentioned was you do have to keep the cap on for so many hours after. I think for us it was 5 hours after.
Without taking it off.
After treatment. Well, you mean it was every 25 minutes.
Change it.
So
You're just continuously changing for 5 hours a
Every
day. So that's
So
not a
we had
whole-
4 caps. So basically,
You layer it.
You layer it with the dry ice. So you go get the one from the very bottom because that's the coldest,
Okay.
and you put that one on your head, and then you rotate everything downward. So you have to take it all out and put it all back in. But what you have to make sure is that it's not too cold. So a lot of times in the picture you'll see
Yeah,
me
because
like.
Dad put that
on the
picture. I saw
ground.
you with the temperature gauge.
So I would actually sit on it, and then I'd have ice on my butt.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Because
So
I mean,
I don't know if you can see the picture that we have up.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so hard
him.
with
That's him
So-
kneeling on it because he
So-
would have to use his knees.
I actually think in that picture, what I'm doing is trying to make sure it doesn't. So it's like a gel,
Oh,
Yeah.
and
it's
so
like a gel.
you need to.
Mhm.
It's a gel that freezes, so you have to actually make sure that it's
Even it out.
consistent. Because what you don't want to do is if it freezes up all in one spot, then it's not getting across her entire.
No, it's a commitment. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, it's not. Oh, I'm just gonna do.
It was teamwork. I mean, it was absolutely
We
teamwork.
had an alarm
Absolutely.
set
really.
at 20 minutes, and then what we figured out, and I'm sorry.
No,
this is
go
weird of
ahead.
you,
No, please.
Because
what
I
we
forget.
figured out is that when the alarm would go off,
Mhm.
I would take the cap out. It would be too cold, and then I would
Oh.
have to sit there and basically knead it. Once it would start to thaw out somewhat, so it was even, and then it would have to get to temperature before I could put it on her head.
So
Oh
it,
my
it became a
gosh.
whole
And the whole time you're getting chemo.
correct. Yeah, and at one
And-
point I was just sitting there
Are you
nauseous,
just like?
and I was like, I've got this heavy pack on my head,
I don't know how
and
you
so
did it.
now I had a heating
blanket?
a heating blanket. The chair was heated.
You had
Thank God.
you had
Yes. So during
hands and
Carboplat, no, was that Taxotere? I think it was during Taxotere. You have to worry about neuropathy. So I had to hold. Well, some people put ice mitts on their hands to prevent their fingertips from getting neuropathy. I did a frozen water bottle. I would hold a water bottle to keep my hands cold. And then I had booties for my feet with ice packs in them. So I had ice on my feet, ice on my hands, ice on my head. And I literally froze myself through chemo.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, so we would do that
And
for
I
the
didn't
whole
know
time
that.
during treatment. And he was responsible for getting it ready. And I just had a timer. I had multiple timers on my phone. And, I had the timer for when he had to get up out of the chair to go start working on the next one. And then I had the timer for when it was like time to go on my head. And it was just like he would sit down for like 2 minutes and then it was time to get back up again. So, and that's
That's a
for
lot.
the whole, because for those treatments, we were probably there. I mean, I know the first one, we were there from like 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then when we would finish, the other thing we'd have to figure out was, okay, we just put this cap on my head. We got to get home, but we still have to change it. So it's like,
Oh my
thankfully,
gosh.
we only lived 13 minutes away from the hospital. So we could like change it. We would time it. I mean, basically,
No way.
I would have him go get the car, have it at the door, and we would change. He
Change
would
it?
come back up to get me, change it, go down,
And that was
get
that
in the
picture
car,
in the parking lot. That's what y'all were
that
doing.
was one of those.
That was at Woman's, right?
right. Yeah, that was actually the
Yeah.
day that I finished. That was my last treatment because everybody was there. We had just rang the bell, and because I was worried. I'm like, okay, y'all can come. This is ridiculous, but I'm like, y'all can come, and we can go outside and ring the bell. But I'm gonna have to figure out how to change my cap.
No, it's
You
not
know,
ridiculous because
before-
you're in that mode of it's not even being ridiculous. I hate when you say that because it's like you're just surviving. You're trying to do this. Like you got a
Right.
job to do. You
Right.
can't mess. You're not going to go through all of this and then not cap at the end. You know what I mean?
right. And that was the last day,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
at that point, yeah, it was like
And look, he's
we've
wearing the
got
mask.
to-
You forget
Yeah.
about that. He's wearing the mask and doing all those things. So, Dad, did she have any pictures? Did you send any pictures like while you were going through chemo? Your hair did, so people can see. See, there's your hair. It did stay.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember. So those are after I had my double mastectomy.
So
So,
did-
I started with a mastectomy.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had
that's
a double
okay.
mastectomy
You had it
first. Then I went through chemo, and then I did radiation. And so at that point, I did not I had not started chemo
You haven't
yet.
started. Okay,
Yeah,
you haven't
so
started
I
chemo
did
yet.
have a picture, one of the ones that you had of like me and the kid. I think there was one with me and the kids. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the day you rang the bell that you had to cap.
So that was my last ringing the bell day. So that was before I didn't have to cap at that point.
At that point,
that
okay.
That was your radiation.
There's a
right?
couple different ones. I rang the bell like 3 times.
Oh my
So I rang
gosh.
that one with the cap on.
There it is.
That was the day I finished actual chemo.
Do you remember
chemo.
that day?
Yeah, I do. You're talking about when I had a reaction?
Yeah.
So you did.
Yeah. So here's another example, right? I'm sitting in the chair. We are on the last like 15 minutes. I think it was a short, that particular one was a short one anyway. And so it was like the last 15 minutes of my infusion. And I was sitting there and I was like, I started like sniffing, and then I was like trying to swallow, and I was like, is it getting hot in here? And I was like, something's not right. I was having an allergic reaction to the treatment. And
Oh my gosh!
In
Like
the middle,
and that can happen all of a sudden.
yes, it can happen. I had been through 6 rounds of chemo, and this was the last one, and you'd only been like however far into it. And I just started like, my throat started closing up on me. And so the nurses come running in there in the middle of them, like, you know, trying to give me Benadryl and all this other stuff. My alarm's going off. It's time to change my cap.
No.
Steroids, all kind of stuff.
Everything.
Like rushing it.
And
So-
I was just like, do what you got to do. And Justin's like, do you want me to do it? I was like, do it. Because we are not going this far and messing up now.
And she
No.
was throwing up.
I was just
And
like,
they are, at this point, there's like 6
and they
rounds
were
to
probably
go.
aggravated, but I was like, just get it on my head. I'm like doing this. I'm like, just get it on my head because I don't want to mess this up.
No.
We've been through, because it
And I
had
need-
just been a process.
I need space to get it out.
I forgot.
There's so many
And there's
nurses,
nurses
in there,
around me,
just,
and
it
he's
was
like, I can't get to your head.
insanity.
I'm
Oh my
like, I don't even
gosh.
care if I don't even care if it's on my head right. Just put it on there some so it's cold.
And then they tell us, they said, oh yeah, this is typical. It's not a matter of if, but when. Like, well, that would have been
for
nice.
you to have a reaction.
That would have been
Apparently,
nice
it
to know.
happens more than you realize as you're going through treatment. Eventually, your body's like, I've had enough.
Your body says stop.
Yeah, and I was upset because I'm like, I have done everything. I have literally done the max dose. I did a double mastectomy. I had my lymph nodes removed. I had, I've gone through this hardest, because there was an easier form of chemo that I could have done. Now, because it was in a lymph node, it wasn't recommended, but I went through
You did
the
what
max
you,
chemo.
yes. So you'd
And
be
I was
healthy.
like, it's my last one. And I can't even finish it. And it was like, but the doctor, even then, she's like, you're fine. I have no, you got over half of the dose. You've gotten all 5 plus over half. She's like, she said, I probably really could have cut you off and not done it, but you're okay. And so, but
Yes, and thank God.
yeah,
Thank
I
God.
completely forgot about that. But yeah, that picture where we were changing it, meanwhile, everybody's outside waiting for me to be rolled. I
They
got
all
rolled
have
out in a wheelchair.
balloons and all kind of stuff out
Oh, and
there
all that. And she
waiting.
just
And I'm texting
I'm
them.
like swelling up and I'm like
texting
having
them,
a
I'm like,
reaction.
hey, I think it's going to be another 45 minutes. Or
Yeah, because I
so.
couldn't leave.
oh my
They
gosh,
had
I
to
guess
watch
no,
me.
no.
They had
Yeah,
to
to
watch me
monitor
to
and
make
all
sure
that,
I was
yeah.
right.
And see, and people don't understand. I'm so glad you're telling everybody all this stuff because that's so much information. Like
Yeah.
it's not like you're just going to get chemo. Like all kind of crazy stuff happens.
Right.
Like and people don't understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
they just
And it's
don't.
not to scare. It's not to scare anyone, but it is a
No,
reality.
It's just
and,
it's reality.
and I think because I kept my hair, there were times where I was like, I felt like, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me, but then there was also times where I was like, a little bit of sympathy would be great right now.
Absolutely.
As I'm like working from home and I'm joining conference calls with a headset, and I'd run to the bathroom to throw up in the middle of a conference call, and then I would come back and lay on the couch with my headset on, and they're like, when are you going to get this out? And I'm like, whenever I can.
Yes.
And so that's the one side of it, that it's like I wanted my life to be as normal as possible. I did what I could to keep it as normal as possible, but then there was also times where it was like I just wish sometimes I had that sympathy. Like, not that I
Yes.
wanted the
No,
but it
but,
was
like,
like,
you
give me
need
a
it.
little bit of a break, because I am doing a lot try to,
Yes.
I was so worried about keeping things normal that sometimes I just like sacrificed, I don't know. It's hard to
I understand,
put it into
because
words.
it's like everything looked fine, so people
Right.
thought you were fine, but you're dying in the inside.
Right.
Like, you're just doing the cold capping alone, even without so that you weren't even getting chemo.
Right.
Just sitting in that chair, just doing that for that many hours is taxing.
Yeah. So
People don't
then-
understand that. And then you're getting chemo on top of that. And
Right.
it's a lot. And you have kids and you have a husband, and you want to keep everything because they're your first priority. I understand wanting to keep your hair, because when Lindsay lost hers, Pearl ran in the other room and started crying.
Yeah.
And she was only 2, but your kids identify, and you made those sacrifices for your girls. And I totally understand that. And I so appreciate that you did that. If you can do that, really, it's probably better for your kids if you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other comments were, when you're going to preschool, why is her mommy bald?
Yeah.
So you kept it normal for your kids, but people got to understand, when you go through something like that, you probably still aren't. You still got chemo brain, I'm sure, at times.
Yeah.
You have
You
the
still
brain
have
parts
all
that you didn't. You're still not. You'll never go back to your old.
No.
It's just
Even now, like,
Yeah.
my whole, like, my mindset about everything
Everything's
is
different.
My mom is like, what? Why are you going here? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And I'm like, I'm just living life now.
Yeah, but that's your gift, and I told Lindsay that too. That your gift is that you appreciate life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't waste time on stupid stuff.
Because you just don't know when some other ball is going to drop. You just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You just don't.
And that's for all of us. That's not just you or something, but that's everybody. You don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I tell Lindsay that because sometimes it's like, all this stupid stuff that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you just don't get involved in it because you're just like, why?
Right.
It's a gift that you don't get involved in that. So, so you are living your life. No, but wait, let me finish saying, you didn't just do the cold capping. You didn't just do the chemo. What my daughter didn't do, you had to do the radiation.
Yeah, I had to do radiation.
And I know
after
nothing
that.
about radiation.
Yeah, so
So when did that happen?
Well, the one thing that I probably need to mention too before we get into radiation, because it does kind of go along with that too. So when I finished chemo, I did roll straight from chemo into radiation a few weeks later.
A few weeks.
But
okay.
So I also had to continue doing the Herceptin and Perjeta infusions for a full year. So that's the difference.
Oh, wow.
My cancer was HER2 positive. So the HER2 required that immunotherapy for a full year. So mine was hormone negative. So I don't take the tamoxifen and some of the other drugs that other people have to take.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I took Herceptin and Perjeta for a full year. And so I still had to go into the room, get the chemo. It wasn't chemotherapy, but I still had to go get the infusions in the room with the other ladies that were doing chemo. And that was where I remember the very first day when I went in there and I had a full head of hair. And one of the ladies asked me, because when I did cold capping, I was in a private room because it was so distracting to everyone else.
Oh.
Because it was such a process, the timers,
Absolutely.
the noise, everything, we were in a private room. The woman's has a couple different private rooms in the back. And so we had our private room. So I didn't see everything that was going on in the chemo room. I didn't hear everything in the chemo room. And so when I went through and went back for those regular infusions, I felt kind of guilty, actually.
Why?
That I had hair.
Oh.
It was a strange, it was a strange feeling because I'm in here with these women and they're like, well, how long have you been doing this? And how do you still have hair? And, I almost didn't even want to talk about it because they're sitting over here. They've had to shave their head. They didn't, and I think that's why I'm so vocal now about cold capping, because
It's amazing.
so many people didn't know.
People
don't know. And
if you don't know, you don't know.
right. But what also people don't realize is the dedication and the commitment that it takes. And you could see from the pictures, Justin's commitment to me. I'm about to cry. But I mean, we were a team, and it's funny because he's bald. If anybody knows him, he's bald. And so the nurses used to always joke and say, you've got the bald guy helping you save your hair.
Well, it doesn't. So if you wear it after you're bald, it doesn't regrow
come back.
the hair either. Just so
right.
I love it.
So, but
no, look, that wasn't like you talking about this. I'm sitting here thinking in my mind, there's no way that, like, if Lindsay could have, there's no way I could have did this.
Yeah.
I mean, you needed an engineer.
Right. Well, and my mom,
like, that's a lot
my
that
mom
he did.
couldn't have, well, I'm not going to say she couldn't have, because whoever,
You would have learned and
they
tried
would
to do
have
the best
stepped
you
up.
could. Yes,
Whoever it was, I
You
had
did.
a whole village of people that stepped up during that time. But so not only is it during chemo for hours after chemo, he and I would get in arguments at the end of the night because I was tired. I was exhausted.
Of course
but
you were.
I was also like, we're going to do it for the full 5 hours. If they say 4.5 to 5 hours, we're going 5.5. Like, we're going.
Yeah, we did go extra.
Sometimes we went extra, and, but by the end of the night, I was tired, and he would be doing things, and I'm just like, you're pulling on my head, like, leave me, and
I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not doing anything different than what I did before.
Yeah. So it just was a lot.
She was just exhausted.
Yes.
I mean, getting all that pumped into your body, I can't even imagine.
Well,
Right.
It's her neck.
It's
heavy.
really
Your
what-
neck.
It's heavy, and
Because
that's why I
it's-
had the, in that picture, I had the
Oh,
travel
yeah.
pillow around
I
my neck
I did
because
see that in
that
that
did
picture.
help to
So what
to
you,
keep my head supported.
Yes, to
And
support
actually,
it.
so I feel like I
straps.
need to explain
the
the
net.
maxi pad and the net on
Yeah,
my
that's
head. So you have to keep your skin protected because it will give you frostbite. So that is a maxi pad on my forehead with moleskin. And I had like the makeup rounds that you use, those would go on my ears. And then I had the hairnet so that every time we would take the cap on and off, we weren't pulling on my hair because the hair had to be down. And so when you take that cap on and off, there's Velcro, there's a lot involved.
there's like 3 straps.
There's 3 different straps. He
Oh,
would have to
wow.
strap it around my head. I mean, it was a lot. And so the hairnet keeps your hair from getting so tangled up and knotted, and the other stuff keeps your skin from getting frostbite.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's a huge commitment. I had
Well, and so even after, so months after that,
really.
you can't dye your hair. You don't, when you're going through it, you also need to limit the amount of times you wash your hair during the
Really?
week. You cannot wash it until, oh, I don't even remember. I have the document with all this information still in it, but there's like, I want to say my chemo was on Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, you would wash it 3 days after chemo. Couldn't wash my hair until Monday. Anytime I've ever been to a hospital, the first thing I want to do when I get home is like clean off, just because
Absolutely.
you just feel dirty and grimy. And it was also COVID. So it's like, got all these germs. The first thing I wanted to do was like wash my hair and just clean off, especially when you don't feel good. You just want to like
Take a shower.
Yes.
Wash your hair. Feel
so I could
good.
take a bath, but I couldn't wash my hair. And actually, as soon as we would take the cold caps off, I would go straight to the bathtub. I was like, I want a warm bath because I'm freezing, and I just wanted to warm up.
Yeah, I swear you're tough.
And
No, like you are tough.
You're wanting to say
are
something
so
over
tough.
there.
Yeah, there's something else that I just thought of.
Uh-huh.
There was something else
That I had to
gave
do.
you a shot in your stomach.
Oh yes,
What was that?
I'm sure Lindsay had it too. They give you, it was for white blood cells. I can't even remember what the name of the shot was. Nelastin. There was like a little patch that they would put on your stomach, and it's like a needle that goes into your stomach, and like 24 hours. Yeah, I couldn't get that wet.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You didn't go.
Oh, you couldn't get that.
Yeah, I
wet.
forgot about that.
So
yeah,
Lindsay
so
had
it
it on the back
was
of her arm. I
okay,
wanna say.
and I don't remember why. I think I didn't do it on my arm because of all the capping
Yes.
and moving my arms and everything.
So-
Or was it?
One time I think I did do it on my arm, but other times it was my stomach.
There was also risk with your arm as far as swelling up and stuff. So
Yeah.
you didn't want to do anything in your arm because of.
Yeah, but the
because of the
lymphedema, I don't think I knew I
lymphedema,
had
that's
it
what
at that
it is.
point.
Lymphedema.
But yeah, there was
Do you still
some.
have the lymphedema in your arm?
I don't know. I debate whether I even
I
had
think
it
'cause
in the
Lindsay
first
has
place. But it
it.
is larger than the other
Yeah.
one. I did go through treatment. I still go to physical therapy and
Good.
get because I'm tight. Everything is tight. The radiation, that's the thing about radiation.
That's the
is
thing
it's like,
that she didn't get. So that's. Can you
The
talk about
lingering
that a little bit?
effects.
Because like I know you went. So you did
Yeah.
the capping. You don't. So I know you said you got the infusions. You don't have to cold cap during the infusions.
right, not during the immunotherapy infusion.
The immunotherapy.
But what you do have to continue doing for, gosh, I can't remember how many. It was like 3 months after chemo was babying your hair. So you would wash it like once, max twice a week. You had certain shampoos you have to use. There's like certain ones that they recommend for you to use.
Absolutely.
They don't want you to dry your hair. I had thick hair, so to like not dry or style or use no dry shampoo. And so I went for months just being like this greasy mess because my hair, I had washed my hair every day prior to that. And so it's
That's crazy.
a commitment during chemo, and then it's a commitment for the weeks between chemo. You just got to make sure that you're babying your hair, taking care of it, not brushing it. They didn't even want you to brush your hair.
Wow.
You had to be you brushed it with a comb because they didn't want you to pull on it. And so that is the other thing. It was traumatizing when I would wash my hair, because the days that I would wash my hair, it would still come out. And like even now I'm still pulling hair out, but it's like I would grab it, and part of it is because you don't realize normal people anyway lose hair when they brush their hair.
Yeah.
I mean,
everybody
always
does.
it's always
Yeah.
falling out. But when you're not brushing your hair and you're not washing it regularly, it kind of builds up, and then when you do wash it, it kind of all comes out. And so at that point I was like,
And
I
you're
would
doing
like,
all this work to keep it.
and he would get mad at me, but
She would grab it, and it would be in like a pile.
and I would stick it on the wall.
I know.
Stick it on the wall in the shower. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, look, this is all coming out. And it was
Because like you're doing all this where you're freezing your head, you're doing everything you're supposed to do
it's
right.
a lot of anxiety that comes with that.
I
And
can't
so
even-
every day that I would wash my hair, it was that anxiety would just hit.
But at the
And
same time, I'm looking at her and I'm like,
you can't tell.
you cannot tell. And that's what I kept having to tell her. You
Oh,
can't
yeah.
tell.
And
But
so that
nobody,
is
but nobody
anybody
can tell you that.
right,
No.
but anybody that does go through it and decides to cold cap, that is my biggest. So I never kept the hair. Some people will like keep it in a baggie and like save their hair. I never did that. I would collect it and like look at it in my hand, and I still have pictures of the hair in my hand, but I would throw it away. And I wouldn't look at it, and I wouldn't like let it accumulate. So that's why I guess I really don't know how much I lost, because I didn't keep it. I didn't measure it. I do have pictures, and I wish I had sent you those too. But I have some pictures of like that I send to people when they're asking me how effective was it for you. And I have like the stages, because I photograph everything. He'll tell you, I
Oh,
take pictures
gosh.
of everything, and I document everything.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I love it.
I think it's gotten
I
worse.
feel like
He thinks it's gotten
I feel like
worse.
I've been to Disney with y'all.
I know. I haven't even posted my pictures from our March trip because life got busy.
No, but I love
But-
that she does that. Like, because I am the one that's like, oh my gosh, we forgot to take. I mean, I love that you do
Yeah.
that, and you know what? Your kids are gonna love it one day.
I
and
know.
it's
and they do, and
and-
he does too, even though he says that. But
well,
you know,
he is. You
he's
know,
like,
and
I don't
it's
have
good.
to take pictures because you do. You
Oh, I don't
No.
ever take my phone out.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I love
From
it.
that standpoint, it's great.
Yeah, but you've also been through so much trauma.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss anything,
Right.
and
Right.
you don't want to miss a minute
Yeah.
of anything. And I get that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
you
so
just,
we do what we can to be at everything, to do everything,
and you're
to
making
just-
memories, and
Right.
So
and we're getting wrinkles and gray hair and losing hair in the process. But
I started losing my hair at 17.
Yeah, he's been losing his hair, so it's not that excuse.
Troy was young
But-
too. I forget how old, but he was young.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so I did do radiation after all the chemo stuff, and honestly, like going through chemo, I remember going through radiation and being like, "Well, this is a breeze."
Yes, so.
I mean, like, at this point, it's like, I've been
Dad.
through the ringer. This is nothing. And it wasn't until, like,
Oh my gosh.
the hardest part about radiation was it was every single day.
Yeah,
It was every day.
Every day.
Every day for 6 weeks. I say every day, every weekday for 6 weeks. It didn't matter if there was a tornado coming through. You still had to be at, the radiation. They were still going as long as that machine was working. And, you just constantly. And so for the first few weeks, it was like I'd go at 6 p.m. or I'd go at 2 o'clock. It was never a set time. And so initially it was like trying to work me in. And I think a lot of that was they were so busy. Women's was so busy at that time because so many people had missed appointments.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. And then whenever things had started to open up in that summer of 2020, so many people were diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was like an overload of the amount of women that had to go through and be scheduled and everything else and so you just had to get in when you could get in. And that's where that village came into play. I'm like, somebody's got to pick her up from school. Somebody's got to do this. I've got to be here. And you just kind of had to roll.
No, you
roll
have,
with
because
it.
you have to do those things.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Yeah, I know Lindsay's doctor said she will never allow that to happen again.
Yeah.
Like, not see her
not see
patient.
patients.
And because it's like, what if you wouldn't have got your mammogram?
Right. Well, and so
What if
I
you
never
would've
even
missed
talked
it?
about the type of, like, my cancer. So I had 3 tumors. Well, I had 3 different spots. It was three different small. They were all like 1 centimeter. I think there was 2 that were 1 centimeter and 1 that was like half a centimeter or something. And it was originally stage 1. When I went into surgery and they found it in a lymph node, it became stage 2 at that point. And so because it had gone into a lymph node, thankfully it was only in 1. It was only in that sentinel node. It had not made its way to other ones. But had I waited, well, number 1, had Dr. LaFranca not recommended that I had a mammogram at 35,
A baseline.
if it had been 40, I wouldn't be here.
No, you wouldn't.
HER2 is very aggressive. It's rare. I remember then being like, I already have a rare blood type. B
You're so
negative.
funny.
So like, I learned that when I had children. I learned that that's not a common blood type. And then I'm like, I have a rare blood type. I have a rare cancer. And it's like at this time of it just, why do I have to be so rare?
Yeah, but thank God, and that's another thing I want to get out there that you've said. Get your baselines. Yeah. Don't start at 40. They did mine at 35 too, and the only reason they did mine young because I'm adopted, and they were like, we don't know your family history. I get my colonoscopy. I got it earlier than everybody else. Because I'm special, right, Dad?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm the special one. But they always did all my stuff wrong, and I thought that was odd.
And see, I didn't have any family history either.
Isn't that crazy? No family.
None of my grandmothers, my mom. Now, I had some great aunts who I learned had it. I mean, I knew one great aunt had it. The other one I didn't know until I was diagnosed. But even that's not considered close enough to be a genetic thing.
Yeah, but like all girls, I think, need to go ahead and get those. I mean, I think they should start at 30.
I tell everybody.
Because Lindsay was 29.
Lindsay, yes.
So I think they need to start at 30.
And I tell everybody now, too. I say that. I was like, I have friends, Lindsay, Rayana. I mean, they were 29, 30 years old going through this at the same time. There were so many young women in that room that it's like,
I remember that. I remember thinking, like, y'all's little group. And I remember thinking, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And, I follow, I don't know if do you follow Dr. Keneally?
I don't, but I guess I need to.
You need to. So she's in California, and she's curing it, but it's the statistics like that. Like in the next 10 years, it's just going to start going younger and younger for girls. So I know my youngest daughter is getting ready to get a mammogram this year. And she's 26.
Yeah.
We're staying on top of the game.
Yeah.
Like, and
absolutely.
then, and your girls, you're going to demand it.
I will make sure. I know I did do the genetic testing, and all of my genetic testing was negative. So that made me feel better to know that I didn't have like the BRCA gene that got passed to my children. And so that made me feel better at that time, you know.
But now it's kind of like, well, does that even...
I know.
Like, I kind of almost think...
I just want to know what causes, and that's the engineer in me.
Oh, I know.
I'm like, what causes?
Y'all need to figure that out.
I know. What causes?
You need to work. I'm going to give you some names of
HER2 is like an overproduction of a protein. Everybody has the HER2 protein. I just overproduced it for some reason, and it's like, why? What?
Go see Dr. Cave.
Yeah,
go see Dr. Cave, because that's how she works with, like, why.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did this happen? Why, fix your body so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's Dr. Keneally too.
Okay.
So, but anyways, so you did the radiation, but what I do want to talk about, since we've talked about, is there anything else you want to say about that?
I think we've covered a lot.
You covered so much. And also I want, if anybody is watching and wants to know, reach out to, like, message us. We'll get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Because
I'm happy to talk about it. Dr. Zadaran has given my name to numerous patients, and because I was getting, as it gets further out from it, it does become a blur. It's actually kind of a good thing that
it's a great thing,
because now I can share this video with them too. But I created a document with my information, like the information, the products that I used, the schedule that we did, and so that I can send it to people, because I've had so many women reach out and
put the email.
Yes.
So if you have any questions, and then we'll just forward it to you.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Fine. I am happy to talk about it with anybody. There's another girl in Baton Rouge who, I forget how she got my name, and she stumbled upon me on Facebook or something somehow. I don't know. And she's going through it right now, and she's cold capping, and she's having success. And she has 2 young girls just like me. And she's just as vocal about it as I am, because it's so like good. It made the process easier to go through. And I think it made it easier on my kids.
Say that, maybe on your family, but I don't think it made it. I mean, I think it's hard on you. And you hold it, you say, and you said
but
that
at the same time, I looked in the mirror. I mean, I could still tell I was different. I could still, I lost my eyebrows. I lost my eyelashes. That still went away. And I still look tired and sick and whatever. But like, for the most part, I could put on makeup and feel like myself.
Yeah. And your girls didn't have to go through that. And that was the gift of it all. If you can do it. If you can.
Yeah. And
if it's
expensive. I do know there are some systems that I want to say some insurance companies have started to cover it. I fought insurance. I submitted appeals because I could have gotten money for a wig, but they would not give me money to do
save your hair.
I'm like, it's my own hair. If I don't want a wig, just give me the money that you're going to give me for a wig and let me use it. I don't think it would have been for a wig. I think I would have actually had to submit the receipts for the wig, right? They wouldn't have just given me funds.
Well, don't even get me started with all that.
Oh, I know. Insurance is a whole nother thing, but it is very expensive.
Get that insurance company one day.
It is very expensive. I do know that
like you didn't ask for cancer. That should be covered.
Right.
That should be something they have at the hospital. That should be something that every patient
now
has
women's does
to.
have that system, I think, because their system might even be like able to be covered by insurance somehow because the hospital provides the machine.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't use that system because I had seen better results with the Penguin for my type of chemo, and I was just concerned. I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it
the right
all
way.
the way.
Absolutely.
And,
like if you're going through that, just do it right. Don't mess up.
Yeah. And I mean, look, if for older people that cannot get on the floor like he did and kneel down and do this and just deal with the process of it going on and off of your head. That system, it still works. It still does great. Some people have amazing results with it, and it is possible to still get good results with that. I just chose to go a different
Well, you
a different
researched
way.
it.
I had researched it, and
I
I just
remember.
that was the one system that was just really highly
Kind of
recommended.
I
guaranteed.
remember we were looking at the cost difference between the two of them or whatever, and we were talking about that, right?
Yeah.
That was something that came up a good bit, was the cost, because I remember the first time we saw the actual receipt before insurance covered it.
Yeah.
Your treatment, it was insane. But when we
Oh yeah,
were
because
looking at-
treatments alone, chemo treatments alone are ridiculous. I mean, I
And-
want to say it was like going to be $14,000 for one Herceptin, and that
and
was
you keep saying Herceptin,
12
but
years.
it wasn't.
well, I know
That was
it
a
was
whole nother story.
Yeah, we won't even go there.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
She
But-
thought she was going to get Herceptin, but she got a
I got
generic drug.
Kangenti. It was a biosimilar drug, but the doctors made me feel better
But
about
it
what I
was-
was getting. But yeah, that's a whole other story
I mean, you
about
have and see, and y'all.
where insurance wouldn't cover the brand drug.
Isn't that crazy though? But it's like y'all two are so on top of your game, and y'all are like you really are. And some people just don't have the knowledge; they're not on top of it like that. And you just think about those poor people,
Mhm.
or like somebody who's even older, and
Right.
you know, it's just
And they're just trusting everything.
they're
You're
just
going
trusting
with it.
everything, and you can't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I want. You got to fight for yourself.
You have to fight for yourself.
have
You've
to
got
fight
to
for yourself.
advocate for
Yep.
yourself because, I mean, the doctors know what they're doing. There is a set regimen for this type of cancer, especially when it's early stage. I mean, it is. I have somebody who will say, "Oh, I just got diagnosed," and I'm just like, "You're going to have this, this, and this," you know. And I mean, it's like it's the flow chart.
But you know what it is? It's the recipe.
It's the
But-
flow chart.
It's
It's
the
like
flow- yeah.
if you it's this, or if you go this way, if you have the. I mean, it's and
So that is when Lindsay started really getting comfortable. At first, I know y'all talked about this already, but if I could just circle back to it, it was a whirlwind. It was crazy, right? Everything was happening, but once everything got on a schedule, which is what we're used to
Yeah.
doing, right? Everything is scheduled in our industry. and
once
how
we
do
started
things.
attacking it.
Once she had a schedule, I'm doing this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do, because it was all laid out. Once it was that, she was in her element.
Yeah. So because you were scared, and I think that was the fear of the unknown.
Right.
I remember us sitting on Lindsay's front porch and us looking at it. And I'm not an engineer.
Yeah. For anybody.
And I
yeah.
wasn't in the room to hear. And she's trying to like comprehend it and tell us. And I'm like scared because I just don't understand.
And my mom even, I think even
I
to this
still
day,
don't,
she's
yeah.
just like,
I don't understand.
I don't know how you knew all that. Like you just,
You're
you
brilliant.
learned it out. Like you just,
You're brilliant.
but I just had to know. I had to understand like what was going on. How, like, where is this? How do we attack it? And just knowing like I need a plan. I have to know, you know, and those first few months where I say months, because for me it was months. I got originally
Yeah.
diagnosed. That mammogram was in July. I didn't have my double mastectomy till the mid September. And it was just like back and forth of, are you going to have chemo, or do you need chemo? Or it's like, we're going to do chemo first. I know we're going to do a mastectomy first. And then it changed every time. I think I had like 4 different biopsies, MRI biopsies, regular biopsies, lymph node biopsies. I just felt like I was poked and prodded and, you know, for at least a month until,
well, yeah, but you really, it was like a whole year.
yeah,
Yeah. You know, like you
Yeah.
were to just, you want your life back.
right.
So that's what I wanted to go into next is now that you
Mhm.
have your life back, you're still working at your job, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm an instrument engineer.
Okay.
I've been doing that, well, I guess since I graduated from college.
So she
How
does
many years
that,
that's been.
which is
Yes.
yeah, which is not probably an easy job. It's probably a hard job.
Right.
But now she's the Disney lady.
Yeah. So the picture that's up here now,
Mhm.
that is actually, so that was during COVID. That was when I can't even remember when we scheduled the trip, but we had scheduled the trip and then COVID hit and I was like, I'm not canceling. I was like, COVID hit in March. That trip was scheduled for October. And I said, let's just go. Let's just see what happens. And I think around July, Disney World opened back up, and I'm like, I'm just not canceling it yet. And then I went and had the biopsies and all this other stuff. And even when I got diagnosed, I was like, I'm not ready to cancel it yet. Let's just see. And because at that point, no one was going to Disney. It was like empty. No one was there. It was like the best time to go. So we kept it. I want to say October 22nd was our check-in date. That ended up being the day that I started chemo. So ultimately, we had to cancel that trip. But we were going to the beach for Labor Day. And I looked at Justin. It was like a Thursday. We were going for a weekend Labor Day beach trip. And I was like, I think we should just go to Disney. Like, we're already going to be like halfway there. Let's just keep on driving after the beach and let's go to Disney. And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, we can just go for like 2 days. Meanwhile, I had my double mastectomy scheduled. So this was like September 4th or something. My double mastectomy was scheduled for September 18th. If you remember, back in COVID, they said, you know, you had that 14-day window. Have you been in contact with anyone in the last 14 days? Have you left the state? You couldn't leave the country, but it was like, have you traveled anywhere in the last 14 days? Nope. So
that's my girl.
I was like, we're just going to go for like 2 days. We'll just go to Magic Kingdom. That's really what the kids love anyway. So I said, let's go. And we will leave and come back, and then we'll have to deal with this. Because I was like, I do not want cancer to take anything else away from me. I don't want our life to just continuously be, you know. So we went, and that was when we went, and it was amazing. And we were there, and Justin was like, we need to extend this trip. We need to go. There's nobody here. And I'm like, oh, we had not even told my mother-in-law. My parents knew because we were at the beach with them. But nobody knew we were there. We were like secretly going to Disney.
I love this. And it made it all the more fun.
Yes. And actually, so in that picture, we were wearing masks. We were not supposed to take them off. But the cast member at that time was like, there was nobody around us. And he was like, I don't see this happen. He took the picture, but he was like, I'm not seeing this happen.
He also said not to post it on social media.
Oh, that's right. But that was a few years ago. So we'll never release it. And I never posted it on social media.
Well, and look, and how about this?
Until today.
But how about this?
No, I don't know.
We all know now that like that was just such, you know, like my grandma would say, a bunch of fugaboo stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
That wasn't even the truth.
But so I have, you know, and I think that's probably when, I don't know, we had gone to Disney. That may have been our third time as a family going to Disney. But we like really fell in love with it at that time.
Well, there was no lines.
There was no line. I mean, obviously, we really
awesome.
fell in love because it was like we had a free open Disney to everyone. And so we I don't know. And maybe it's like, that's where we went before our lives turned upside down.
That's probably,
you know?
That's it. And it's your happy,
it was truly,
place.
as cheesy as it sounds, it was truly magical. It was a magical trip. And, you know, we left from there ready to just battle this. And,
because that is
it. We came back and we did not extend our trip because I said, what if I get sick? Like, we can't push this surgery out. Like, we've got to be careful. And, you know, as much as I want to stay, we got to get back home.
But at least you did that. Y'all went and y'all lived life for 2 days before all the crazy started. Yeah. And then it was like almost a reset so you could go battle. Mm-hmm. But I want to pull up, Dad, her website and all the things that she does. So,
yes. So
look
now,
at you, how cute.
You know, as many times as I have gone to Disney now, I don't even know. I think, you know, Olivia may even know how many times we've been. But
how many? She's in here too.
How many times have you been? 10, but
I don't know.
She doesn't know anymore. But so we've gone so many times, and every 100. Every time we've gone, everybody was like, "What have you? How do you?"
Y'all take the best trips. That's all I'm saying. Like you're planning our next trip wherever we go.
I've always been a planner.
I can tell. We need your help.
I have always been a planner. I love to plan. I just love details. I mean, even through chemo. Not that I love doing that.
Birthday parties. Even I'm like, I watch y'all's birthday parties. I'm like, what the heck?
I know.
I don't
tell me where to go.
You do nothing.
I don't do anything.
You don't
tell me where to go.
Her.
Tell me what to wear. He's the same way in Disney. Tell me where we're going
Oh
next.
my gosh.
It's all
What
her.
fast pass we got next? Where are we going?
You're gonna have to plan Lindsay in this because they want to go back.
Yeah,
They really
so
do.
I love it. And so back in September, we went for a Labor Day trip. We went. LSU played in Orlando, and so we went on a trip, and we came back. And I had been thinking about doing it, and I just never really took the plunge. And I was like, oh, what the heck? Let's give it a try. And so I started, but I just love helping. I love helping people.
I know.
And
yeah, I can tell.
when I'm helping someone else plan their trip, we go on our trips and I plan all ours, but helping someone else plan their trip. And, I've had people that are like, oh, the kids want to go to Disney and I am dreading it. I do not want to go. And I know it's going to be awful. And I'm like, we're not going to let it be awful. And they come back from their trip and they're like, this is cheesy, but it was so magical, and it's
you're
like
giving
you
them
really did make it magical.
You did.
And not that I've done anything special, but it's just telling them the little tips or just knowing hey, go here, do this. I promise if you do this, take a break here and things like that. And just being able to tell people make their vacations as special as ours.
And I think that's a gift.
Yeah.
That's a gift that you're giving everybody. And I think sometimes when you go through something like you did, God gives you little gifts along the way. And your gift is now that you're gifting other people.
Right.
Planning their vacations. And because let me tell you, I never took my kids to Disney when they were little because I was overwhelmed.
Yeah. And it's very overwhelming now.
Overwhelming. And I was like, there's no way we're going to go to the beach. But I had 3 kids and they were all 4 years apart and everybody wanted to do something different. And I just knew if we went, it was going to be like a fight.
Yeah. And it's not always as pretty as it looks on TV, on Instagram and Facebook.
At least you have a plan and you know where you're going, and then it's okay, we're going to go to this. They didn't have that back then, but at least you can say, oh, we're doing this for this kid, and then we're going to go do this for that kid, and that's good because you've been there, you know the place. Mm-hmm. It's great, and I'm telling you, your pictures are just. You should be a party planner too,
Yeah, everybody says that too. Everybody says that too.
Oh, we
did. Yeah, we don't just do Disney. So Justin,
my friend put because we took Lindsay and Haley to Six Flags and we were traumatized.
We've done it. Well, I haven't done it with the kids, but we've done the whole Six. I did the whole Six Flags.
We need you for the.
Yeah,
we were traumatized. Me and my friend went with Lindsay and Haley, and we had no plan, and it was
probably hot.
It was,
and I know.
We were standing in lines forever.
Yes,
it's back in the lines day. You know, I mean, it was terrible. But anyways, and then that's my Aunt Patricia, who she actually had cancer.
Okay.
But it wasn't breast. So
yeah, and I think so. I don't know exactly. I do know the cold cap is approved for cancers that are tumor cancers.
Okay.
So I don't think it just has to be breast cancer if it's a tumor, but obviously everybody would need to do their own research and confirm this because I don't know for certain, but I do know it was approved. It's approved for breast cancer because it is a tumor, an actual mass tumor, I guess I should say.
Okay. Well,
but a blood cancer or cancer that's obviously brain and stuff like that, it's it wouldn't be recommended, but it's definitely worth bringing it up to a doctor if you have any.
Absolutely, because Aunt Patricia had Dad, thyroid and kidney, and what else? And was that feel like poor Aunt Patricia went through it. But my friend Darren said he's going to have you planning trips for the
gosh.
So
So we do Disney, Universal. Universal's about to have a brand new park coming out next year.
Oh, really?
An actual whole new park. Disney, Universal, cruises, all inclusive.
Really? So you do it
even
all?
if you just want to go to New York City. I just quoted somebody, New York City for the
Really?
Thanksgiving Day parade. I mean, I could do hotel stay. I can do we're a full service travel agency.
I love it.
I do specialize in Disney just because it's a passion. But Justin and I, for example, just went to St. Lucia.
Okay, I saw that. Like, I'm not stalking you, I promise.
No,
but like, I
stop.
saw that.
It was
That trip was-
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was telling Troy, I was like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, when are you taking me on a trip like this?
Yeah. And so we've decided,
Probably never.
and this is another thing. We've decided our kids have gone to Disney and we will still go to Disney, but we want to take our kids every year somewhere special. And so we've kind of like made that pact that we're going to go somewhere other than the beach and Disney or whatever with our kids. We're going to attempt to do it every year.
You know what? Best idea ever.
Yeah.
I
Just
love-
take them somewhere
I love
because
that.
we are seeing it. Like we said this while we were there. We're like, we're seeing the world, but we want them to see it too. And we want them to see it with us,
I love it.
So anyway, yeah.
I love that. Oh, look, we can make sure go to. We can go.
You can try.
Do you have any questions, Dad? I thank you for sharing, though.
Oh
My
yeah,
gosh,
you're
you
welcome.
really
I appreciate it.
were so vulnerable with your story too. I mean, thank you so much. But
So-
anything, Dad? Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm just impressed with the amount of research that went into
I know.
working on your own thing. And I guess that's another testament to the fact that you need to be your own advocate with medical issues because, otherwise you get whatever the other guys tell you to get. So,
Yeah.
So you were saying something?
Yeah,
Justin?
he's like mimicking, and I'm like,
No,
what
no,
are you
no,
saying?
I want.
Yeah.
Don't
So-
forget anything.
No,
This was a huge help.
I just
Turn
wanted
it
to
off.
thank the people that set up the food train and
The meal
and
train.
brought all of the
Yeah.
food to
Yeah,
our house
I remember that.
after
Yeah.
chemo and all that.
Yeah,
I
every
mean,
Friday we had, every week we had food coming in, and there was times where I couldn't eat it, but they could.
Yep, and Lindsay never
And-
ate either, but the meal train. I'm so glad you said that.
it was
Yeah.
awesome.
Meal
I mean,
train is the best thing, and if you can't bring a meal, send a gift card.
Yeah.
Do
Or,
something.
we had
Call it
people
it.
ordering
Uber
DoorDash.
Eats. Yeah,
Yeah,
we did
I mean,
all kinds of stuff.
Well, you know what's so crazy?
Just not having to think about it, because for
Absolutely.
me, I'm the one. I mean, I'm the one that cooks dinner every night.
You are.
He
That's
jokes that I cook, he cleans. you know?
Yes.
I do the dishes.
And he does
Yeah,
all the
no.
dishes. But just not having to even think about that. That is a huge. If somebody that is going through chemo or
Mhm.
even just any sickness.
How about this? Even
It
if
is
it's
a
somebody
huge
you
help.
don't real like,
or yeah,
you don't because I met Dad Carmen who came
Right.
on my show. Carmen
show.
had stage 4 colon cancer. She's cured. And she was we all went to dinner one night, and one of my friends was like, one of my friends is going through cancer. Does anybody want to sign up for the meal train? I said, absolutely, I
Yeah.
do. Brought her a meal. We're great friends. I came in there, met her, brought her meal, and I ended up bringing her another meal. But it was like, what a gift it was to me to bring her that meal.
Yeah.
Because she prays for Lindsay. I love her.
yeah,
She's such a benefit in my life. I'm so thankful to have her in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, even if it's not somebody, of course, a friend of a friend is the good way to do it. You don't want to just show up to somebody you have
Right.
absolutely no idea for. But I'm so glad you said that.
yeah,
It was a massive help.
yeah.
It was for us too. So thank you for saying that.
Mhm.
All right, Dad.
well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming on the
Oh,
show.
you're
and,
Yes,
welcome.
thank
and bringing your
you.
family with
having
you,
me.
too.
I know she's got to plan us a trip, Dad. Like we need
All right.
a good family trip, but like I don't
Doesn't have
need-
to be Disney if you're not
Okay,
ready to take
all
that
right.
plunge yet.
I don't know
We
if I'm
can,
ready
we can figure something out that'll
Yes.
work
All right.
good, and it can be a calm beach somewhere.
Troy,
We can-
you're going to St. Lucia, dude.
I know.
Congratulations.
And if I'm not going with him, I'm going with my friends.
There you go.
We'll
There you
leave him
go.
at home.
oh my gosh.
So, thank you again.
Thank
Honey, we
you.
got a guest lined up for next week as well. This is going to be Ryan Goday, And Ryan is a late vocation to the priesthood and will be entering the seminary this fall. And he's going to tell us all about his story and discerning vocation and what that's meant to him. So that'll be coming next Wednesday at 7 p.m. So, bye, ladies.
All right.
We're
Thanks.
so glad to have you here, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, Justin, too.
Yeah.
And Justin, too.
Thank you.